Hello, Ken. How are you this fantastic evening?
Dan, I'm unshaven, but happy to be here with you. How are you tonight?
I am excellent and also unshaven. And so, if you are curious and you are just a listener to this podcast, we do have video available, and all the videos are available at mosesinthecia.com. You can check us out there. And also, there's a link to the videos that are on our YouTube channel. So, that's our little pitch. If you're ever curious to see what we look like, you've heard our voices, and you have this picture of us in your mind, trust me, we are better looking than the picture you have in your mind. But tonight, Ken, we are talking about riding the wave. What is this all about?
Here's what this is about. This past week or two has been one of disappointing results. I generally pride myself on planning things out really well. And as a result of that, things tend to go in the direction I think they're going to go. And these past 2 weeks proved to be otherwise. It felt like a storm. And my first response was, I was somewhat incredulous, like, how is this happening? I always plan things out. Things always go the way that I hope they will. And it was a little bit of woe is me. And I got out of that and I got into the space of warrior. It's like, all right, this is a storm. I'm putting on, my rain gear, and we're going to step out into the storm and keep our head down, and we're going to trudge through it, and we'll make it through. We'll fight this thing. That felt more powerful, by the way, than the why is this happening to me. So I would just advise people as we're walking through this. Anger is actually a more powerful and more in control emotion as long as you are generating it and are aware that you're generating it, than is the why is this happening to me victimhood. It may seem pathetically obvious, but it's worth saying. So anger is like that next step up the ladder from victim to anger. If you can get to anger, that's not a bad place to get to if you're wallowing in the why is me or woe is me piece. And then a couple nights ago, I had a dream, and in the dream, I saw this storm going on, and I envisioned myself doing what I said I was going to do, like gearing up to get out in it and battle the storm. And then I heard a voice say, or you could just grab a surfboard. And I just thought that was extraordinary. And the voice continued by saying, why don't you just ride the wave? And what I took from that was that I had gotten soft in just expecting that things are just going to work out all the time. They don't. That's life. They don't always work out. And I'm super thankful that I only spent a week or two in that kind of woe is me state, and that I was able to transition up to at least that warrior anger state. But the thing I'm so grateful for is that vision about riding the wave. Like, what if this is the way it's supposed to be? There's something to be learned here. This is part of the adventure. This is the gateway to whatever's next. I need to go through this, not as a test and not as a way to try me, but it's just the passage to whatever's next. So the conversation tonight, ride the wave. There you have it.
So, you know who else had a dream? Martin Luther King, who we just celebrated his holiday this past week. So maybe that inspired you. You were thinking about that, and then it went into your subconscious mind, and you had a dream that felt like it led you somewhere or gave you some inspirational wisdom. So hopefully we can give you some inspirational wisdom tonight in what we talk about. And when I think about riding the wave, I think about the first time I ever learned to surf. In no way am I good. I would say that I'm capable with a longboard to be able to surf. And a lot of surfing is to accept the waves as they come to you, and not being affected by other surfers who are grabbing the wave that you think is yours, right? The one that you're like, oh, that was it. That was perfect. But somebody else who's more experienced than you can like get in it, like get in that wave faster, and you don't want to get in their way, and they won't like it if you get in their way. But also realizing that sometimes there's a bunch of good waves in a row, and other times there seems like there's nothing, and you can just be sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. And for me, I would say I'm a very proactive person, a very strategic person. I plan ahead and think about what I'm going to do. So what that allows is a little bit of letting go and that acceptance of, sometimes life does not align with what you wish it would be or hoped it would be. And I often have this reaction, whether I say it out loud, I think it a lot in coaching people. I often come to the fact that, especially in America, many people are very entitled, right? They almost feel like the world owes them something. It's like, haven't I put in my dues? Haven't I done enough? Didn't I do the right thing? Like, it's almost like the world owes me. And it's like, no, the world owes you nothing, right? You got to just accept what comes along. You could do everything you feel is perfect in alignment with the plan that you put in place. But they say, how do you make God laugh? Tell him your plans. That's exactly like riding this wave. It's like you could take all the lessons and be ready to go, but you just may never get the right wave, or someone else may jump in on that wave that you're ready to ride. So the first thing is the ability to just accept, right? Accept what comes, accept that it's probably not going to go the way you plan it. And then to just kind of, as the term goes, go with the flow and accept what comes.
So when I was learning to ski, so many years ago, my buddy Jim, who was really expert, was my instructor. And when we finally graduated to skiing more advanced hills, especially ones with a lot of moguls, he noticed that I was trying to pick and choose which ones to take. It's like, that one feels a little bit too big. I'll just go over here and do that one. And I was falling a lot. And his advice was, take whatever is in front of you. Just take whatever's in front of you. Don't select something off to the side. And that lesson did two things for me. Number one, it absolutely focused me on what was coming. And the second thing was it developed my skills, because what was coming often was unexpected. I didn't exactly know what it was going to be. I wasn't trying to see out there and figure out what to do. And so I try to keep thinking about that. Take whatever comes, take what's in front of you and work with it. And that lesson came back to me. I'd forgotten that until a couple of weeks ago. And when I had this kind of revelatory moment, that take whatever comes came back to me. And I thought this is absolutely the way to go. The cool thing, this is just a couple days ago, but the cool thing is the shift that's taken place since then. All of a sudden, possibilities have opened up. All of a sudden, my thinking's become more expansive. All of a sudden, I'm looking at opportunities that I didn't even realize were in front of me. Because before, I was in essence looking backwards. Why didn't this happen? Why didn't it go the way? It was all previous stuff. It was all stuff that had happened. It was past. It was over. Changing the way that I think about this, conceptualizing it in a new way to ride the wave, utterly changed how I looked. I wasn't looking backwards anymore. All of a sudden now, I'm looking forward. All of a sudden, I'm whiteboarding new things. All of a sudden, I'm making calls to folks that hadn't even come into my mind, but that now were in my consciousness. And I think for anyone going through a rough time, if you can get to that space of, I'm going to ride this and I'm actually going to enjoy it. I'm going to do my very best to enjoy the ride, as the Grateful Dead said. I'm going to do my best to enjoy the ride. Not only will your perspective change, but those things which start occurring in your environment are going to change for the better as a result of it.
So a big discussion that I've had multiple times is about whether we have a destiny, right? And that comes along with the package of are you predestined, right? So a lot of people will say a person, for example, in a relationship is their soulmate, right? Did God specifically pick this person as your, on the journey of life that you go on together? But with all that said, my opinion is simply that if you were to look at destiny or God's will for your life, it aligns really well with, let's say, like a river that you're like floating down, and you're put on course at your birth, right at the start of your life, and then as you're very passive in the beginning, you're just kind of like you're along for the ride, right? And because you have a lot of support system, hopefully you have parents or teachers and coaches and people that like really are doing all the work for you to make sure you kind of stay on course, or you follow the plans, you like, stay in that river. Going along with this metaphor, what ends up happening is, like we said, like tell God your plans, and that's how you make him laugh. Is if there is a plan for you, if there's a destiny for you, that would be like just a straight river that you just keep flowing down. But it's often real in life that we get like pulled off course or like pulled out to sea. And the way I think this like intuitive nature, this conscience that you have, can tell like just something feels off, right? Like this is not what it's supposed to be. And at some point in our lives, we start to take on a sense of responsibility. We let go of this passive thing that's like someone's going to jump in and fix it for us, or somebody's going to always like pull us back on course. And however you go along with this metaphor, like in surfing, you might like lay down on the board and start like moving your arms, like you're paddling, right? You're trying to like get some sense of control or like change directions. Or if it's like a more of a boat, like you take out an oar and start paddling in the right direction. But in either case, the big thing about riding the wave is to be able to have this, as Tony Robbins calls it, sensory acuity, to be acutely sensitive and aware of those feelings that you have. Like, am I doing the right things? Like, am I on course? Am I following what feels right to me? And whether that means you're following it because that was your destiny or that was God's plan for you, you kind of know it, right? Intuitively, I say like, trust your gut. You kind of know like, man, this just feels wrong to me. But to not passively wait for somebody to fix it on your behalf, but again, to paddle or take out your oars and then try to like choose, like, I need to go there, right? Like pick that wave. And I'm like, I'm going to go ride that wave. And hopefully that'll lead me back in the direction where I get on plan, I get on path, and I'm now headed back in the direction that feels good to me. It feels like it aligns with my destiny or what the plan is for my life. So again, I encourage you, be aware first, and then second, take action to try to always keep you as close to being on path, flowing down that river of life like you were intended to be.
So I think that the action is just what you said. It is getting out the surfboard or getting out the boat, and not just standing there getting battered by the storm, but actually stepping into it. And I want to stress that it's that stepping into it where I think the magic happens. I think it's just that act of getting on the wave or getting in the river, or we could make a million different analogies here, but I'm going to stick with the surfboard and the wave. And I think that if people simply did that one inspired action, I'm going to ride this and I'm going to enjoy it, everything shifts. Perception shifts, opportunity shift, possibilities shift. And by virtue of that, then the outcome shifts as well. Whether, like Dan, you were saying, if people think there is a particular destiny for their life, if people think there's a very specific purpose for their life, or if people think that life just it occurs and you make the best of it as it's occurring, I think it applies in all cases. There is nothing to be gained by staying in your room and crying, "Why me?" There is nothing to be gained by standing outside and just thinking, "I'm just going to let this thing batter me and I'll do my best to fight it back." But there's everything to be gained by engaging it, and by riding that wave, and by seeing where it goes. You're going to get a new viewpoint. That, to me, I like the wave thing because it's like there's some height there. You get a chance to get up and to look around. I found that my view was so diminished and so small and so constricted. And like I said before, now it's expansive again. And I think it's because of that sense of I'm on top. I'm up there, and I have a chance to look around and get a new view and a new picture of what's happening in my life. And I actually have a chance to enjoy the adventure of not knowing exactly where it's going. But to your point, I think more than a mental knowing, it is a feeling. We have an emotional guidance system that's pretty fail safe. And if we intuit via our gut and not overthink things, then we're going to be on the right track.
So there's a big principle that I do with psychology, which is aligning, right? And then, and what that means to me with this analogy of riding the wave is, if you think about yourself, we talked about standing up, like, and you're facing head on the waves as you like walk from the shore out into the ocean. It can be really tough, right? If you're just facing them head on, it's like almost like football. Like you're going to get hit hard by these waves if they're big enough, and they could hurt you. My dad actually, I think he dislocated his shoulder. It's like Ken has a shoulder problem. He dislocated his shoulder from a wave that literally took him down and like slammed him into the shore. So if you face things head on, then it can be really, I think, a difficult road ahead for you. But if you simply aligned, what does that mean? To me, it's almost like you accept if there's any sort of, again, destiny or God's will or something meant for you, you can literally just, like ride it, like turn around and let it push you. And for a little bit of time, almost just let go of trying to fight against what is coming at you in life and just see a little bit of where it takes you, because you may be surprised. It may be that whatever you were facing is actually meant to like push you in a new direction. And that new direction may be even better than what you thought. And you may be stubborn and you may have this ego. We all have it, right? This like, no, I'm the kind of person who I can just push right through. And it's possible you will be successful, but maybe just by giving it a little bit of time and just aligning, essentially in this case, like riding it and just letting it experience where it takes you, and then seeing if maybe this could be even better than what you are trying to do and fighting against the situation. And maybe in the end, you're going to end at a whole new destination that's even better than the destination you were initially headed.
There's a great phrase, nothing that you want is upstream. And I I love that because as the author that I was listening to was talking about this concept, she said, like, we get into our boat and the first thing we do is turn upstream and start paddling like mad dogs, like we're salmon, beating ourselves against the rock, trying to make it upstream to spawn. And her counsel was much like what you just said, which is what would happen if you just pulled the oars in, let the boat turn around, and let the stream carry you, and took a look at what's around you and assessed it there from a place of alignment's a great word. And I would add to that notion of alignment, I would just urge people to look at their beliefs, their thoughts, their actions, and their words. Because if we're truly going to align, then we can talk a good game, but if our actions don't match it, we're not going to be in alignment. We can have a strong and powerful belief system, but if our words don't match up with what we believe, and if our actions don't match up with our words or our beliefs, we're still going to be out of alignment. The magic comes when our beliefs, our words, and our actions all unite as one. That's access to power. And that's a place that people can think about it. That's a great exercise to do. You might start out in the morning with like a super powerful meditation. You're like, yes, this is where I'm at. And then check what comes out of your mouth during the next hour or so. Check what you start to say. Check what you do. Do those things align with your beliefs? And if they don't, you've got some work to do. And that's great. That's great, because as you bring those closer and closer together, then you're going to be in alignment. And then riding that wave is going to be joyful, because everything about who you are is united.